That's why. Please. No, listen to me. Please. The judge must listen to me. No, wait. I'm asking a very simple question. No, wait. Please, look, this is Supreme Court. Wait, hold on. This Supreme Court here. Hold on a second. I said, hold on. May you please, your lordship. Please. May I refer your lordship to section 266 of ACTA. Circuit of law. What you're doing is not law. Please. You don't know the law. Please. Show me. I said, show me. When you have the right to go to my right to find my place. Show me. What the Constitution says. Show me.
Well, I will rise and come back.
You cannot show me.
Can you please take him out? I'll come back. I rise. I'll come back in 5 minutes.
With all sense of humility, I say, sir, as a prosecutor, that this court has no discretion in that regard, and that the only sentence that your lordship will impose for counts 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6 is death sentence. This court has the power to do so, and with respect must do so. The language of the act is clear, and the court is urged to apply it strictly without deviation.
So, guys, it's really a sad day that Justice James Omotosho has officially found Nnamdi Kanu guilty of the 7-count charges. Remember, the federal government filed a 7-count charge against Nnamdi Kanu. But meanwhile, Justice James Omotosho is going to give the final sentencing by around 4 o'clock today. I said, let me update you guys. But meanwhile, he has already concluded that Nnamdi Kanu is guilty of the 7-count charges, and he has found him guilty of terrorism charges and all that. But meanwhile, let us try to analyze some of the things that Justice James Omotosho said while giving his judgment, or probably before convicting Nnamdi Kanu for the 7-count charges. Nnamdi Kanu brought a preliminary objection speaking about his extraordinary rendition. Now, Justice James Omotosho said something today in court that despite the fact that he and the Supreme Court has agreed that Nnamdi Kanu was illegally renditioned back to the country, that does not, as a matter of fact, negate the fact that he was tried before 2015, before the illegal rendition happened, so that the illegal rendition cannot discontinue his trial that commenced since 2015. He equally went ahead to say that even though not conceding that he was charged in 2015, that the United States Supreme Court did the same thing that they did in one case when they extradited someone from Peru to come and answer some question in America, that the Supreme Court of America said that despite the fact that they forcefully renditioned that person from Peru, that the Supreme Court of America or the United States gave a go-ahead order for them to continue with the trial. So Justice James Omotosho concluded that illegal and extraordinary rendition cannot stop someone's trial. Cannot stop any trial. Rather, the only thing illegal extraordinary rendition can do is that the person can seek for some form of reparation, like the person can seek for monetary compensation for violating his fundamental right and illegally renditioning him or her back to the country. That was the judgment that Justice James Omotosho gave on that particular case of illegal extraordinary rendition. So he was saying that Nnamdi Kanu, the only thing Nnamdi Kanu can do is he can seek for reparation or compensation for that particular stuff, but the trial must actually go on, that the courts have the jurisdiction to try him. Now, the second one, remember, Nnamdi Kanu was actually insisting that the Terrorism Prevention Act of 2013, under which he's been tried, has been repealed. That it has been repealed. Now, Justice James Omotosho now said something. It was really quite funny, actually. James Omotosho said, yes, that the law of 2013 was actually repealed, or probably repealed in 2022, but that Nnamdi Kanu should remember that some of the charges that were filed against him were filed in 2015, that by 2015, that those particular laws have not been repealed. This is what Justice James Omotosho was actually saying while he was giving his judgment. It was really shocking that the laws were not repealed in 2015 when Nnamdi Kanu was actually first charged with that particular law of 2013. So for that reason, that particular law still is an extant law, and it still exists because the charge was first made before the law was repealed. So he waved away all the argument that Nnamdi Kanu was arguing that that he was actually being charged or probably tried under a repealed law, or probably a law that does not exist. So this was the two most important, preliminary, objections that James Omotosho actually addressed. Now, why addressing the count charges? Remember, if you've been following my channel, before he actually convicted Nnamdi Kanu for the 7 count charges, he ruled that Nnamdi Kanu, as a matter of fact, was found guilty for count charge 1, which I have already, read that in this particular video. That count charge 1 stipulates, as you can see on the screen, that count charge 1 was that the federal government said that he incited followers to hunt security personnel. So they started, referencing a lot of incidents and broadcasts that Nnamdi Kanu made, that he told people to hunt security personnel and police officers and that. Justice James Omotosho quickly went ahead. And remember that they are, if you watch from the video I just played, they are seeking for death sentence for this particular man, not even life imprisonment. And they said that this count charge 1, which fell under Terrorism Act, is equivalent to death sentence, so that he will be sentenced to death. And the federal government lawyers, being Tinubu lawyers, are insisting that the only option for this particular count charge 1 is death sentence and nothing else. Now, this count charge 2, which I said here, was that defamatory broadcast and all that, the same thing, that he made defamatory broadcast and all that, and they said it is true. Justice James Omotosho said it is true that Nnamdi Kanu made defamatory broadcast on his radio Biafra doing his broadcast and all that, and for that reason, and again, Justice James Omotosho said that for Nnamdi Kanu refusing to open up his defense, that he was only basing his judgment based on the evidence or the evidences that the federal government provided. That since Nnamdi Kanu refused to open up his defense, that he's only giving a judgment based on the evidence and the argument that the federal government brought. So he only sentenced him based on a one-sided, information, which is the one that the federal government presented. So he said Nnamdi Kanu was guilty of this particular count charge 2, which still, he said, falls under Terrorism Prevention Act, and the penalty for this particular crime is death. The count charge 3, it was really shocking. Count charge 3 is still that, as a matter of fact, that he's a member of a proscribed group, and Justice James Omotosho said the IPOB is a proscribed group, and for that reason, that for being a member of a proscribed group in the country, that he committed acts of terrorism, and for that reason, that the penalty for this is death penalty and all that. It was quite shocking, and quite shocking too. And why the federal government lawyers are saying that the penalty for this particular crime or count charge 3 is not just death penalty but 20 years imprisonment. Now the count charge 4, again, which they said is another incitement to violence, that he incited people to violence, to attack police officers and that, as a matter of fact, that he was found guilty on that particular offense, and it still falls under Terrorism Prevention Act and all that his penalty is death penalty for this particular count charge. It was quite shocking the way he was dishing out, a judgment. He was giving evidence, and at some point he said that Nnamdi Kanu was one of the people that masterminded the NSAS, atrocities, or probably the NSAS chaos that actually happened in Lagos and across the country. So they put it on him that it was Nnamdi Kanu. It became so shocking and so this thing, because NSAS that was based on police brutality, but Justice James Omotosho said it was Nnamdi Kanu that masterminded every other thing that actually happened in court. Now, the count charge 5, which is the illegal importation of radio transmitter, they said that this particular count charge, that Nnamdi Kanu is equally guilty of this one, and the penalty for this particular one is 5 years imprisonment without an option of fine, that the person will stay 5 years without an option of fine. And the last but not the least is the possession of firearms, conspiracy, and all that Nnamdi Kanu did this and that, and Justice James Omotosho agreed, because he said because Nnamdi Kanu did not counter, probably provide any defense to this, that he's only agreeing to every single thing that the federal government presented as evidence in this particular court. So he actually found Nnamdi Kanu guilty of count 6 and equally count 7, that of treasonable felony and all that. I just don't want to continue. So he just found him guilty, and he said that the penalty for it is death. So he's going to give his official sentencing by 4. He said by 4 that the court will actually go on break. That's why we're actually doing this particular video. And it's really, 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 really. Remember, Nnamdi Kanu was not even present while he was actually giving this particular judgment, because Nnamdi Kanu was infuriated in the beginning of that particular court session. So they had to remove him and give a judgment in his absence, because Nnamdi Kanu was arguing that his right to final written address is his fundamental right, and for that reason, that this particular judgment cannot continue or probably cannot go on, because he was not allowed to present his final written address, while Justice James Omotosho is arguing that Nnamdi Kanu has already presented his final written address in his last motion that he filed, since he refused to open up his defense. Well, I'll keep you guys posted. It's really sad, but I'll keep you guys posted on the latest developments by 4. See you guys later. Do want to subscribe and share this particular video.